Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everybody, it's Debbie Potts, your host of the Whole Athlete Podcast, which you may have noticed. Some podcasts, I say the whole triathlete. Other podcast episodes, I say the whole athlete. Where the purpose of this podcast is to help educate you as an athlete, endurance athlete, but also for daily living, how we can improve our health, how we can improve our ability to burn fat, and of course, improve our performance in endurance sports, triathlons, but also as I am getting older, I want to get younger and I want to improve the aging process and feel my best now than I did 10 years ago. So some shows will talk about triathlon training and ways to improve your performance with race-specific training tips and recovery and strength training. Then other episodes, we're going to mix it up and talk about the holistic methods. So if you've seen my book on Amazon, The Whole Athlete is what we're working on with the holistic method. So there's 8 elements of the holistic method, and the topics will vary on the show based on nutrition, exercise, sleep, my big one, stress, and we've got movement, because even though we train every morning, I want you to move during the day. Mobility work, especially as we get older, we get tighter. And then we have hydration, digestion, and gut health. Hormone balances in there too, we'll dive into. And happiness, and really finding ways that makes us smile, makes you laugh, makes you have fun every day. Giving a gratitude to the day. If it's at before your dinner, as a prayer, or before bed, you do gratitude journal. So my focus on the show is how to transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. So you can learn more on Life is Not a Race, my personal story I shared in my book that's on Amazon, and the manual and workbook, The Holistic Method, is on Amazon as well. And I'm going to start making a new version of that manual next year, focusing on nutritional therapy elements for the whole athlete. So really going into more specific for endurance sports, how you can train the whole you. So on today's show, I have Carole, known as Keto Carole, and she's going to talk about keto, obviously, but I want to talk about during the holidays and New Year's and things she's learned from coaching people for years trying to get into keto, and who's it good for or not for, maybe nutritional therapy information that she's learned, and also, how do you make good choices during the holidays or when you're at family homes. I was just at my parents' and they have everything from Costco and prepared foods. So you have to learn how to make good choices when you're not in control. So just let me share her bio. Carole Freeman is pretty amazing. She's got lots of education, but I'll put her links in the show notes because she's done a lot. So she's started this keto program years ago before it's gotten so popular right now, but she's a certified nutritionist, certified clinical hypnotherapist, and a ketogenic diet implementation expert. She is the creator of the Fast Track to Keto Success Program and has tremendous success teaching people with chronic health issues to effectively implement a ketogenic diet long-term to radically transform their health. She's a graduate at Bastyr University in Kenmore, Washington, which is not far from me. And she's a Master's of Science in Nutrition and Clinical Health Psychology and a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition. She has completed 30 additional hours of training in foundations and functional nutrition through Nutritional Therapy Association, plus an internship at an integrated health clinic in Redmond, Washington. So she's taken other classes with herbal medicine, therapeutic and whole foods cooking, children's nutrition, mental health, a lot she's done over the years. So I'm excited to have her on the show today. She has a podcast as well, and you can learn more about her program. So let's bring on Carole Freeman and learn all about her and what she has to offer for us, as we're always looking for new tricks and ways we can improve our ability to be fat burning machines, as we all want to lose weight and get leaner and stronger and get faster. So here we go. All right, everybody, I'm back, and I have our guest on the show today, the keto queen over here in the Northwest and all over the country. Keto Carole is on the show today.
Hi, Debbie. Thanks for having me.
Well, we've had you on the show once before, and on this show, we kind of target people who want to improve performance in endurance sports, triathlons, but also I'm finding as I get older, I said this in our intro, but just trying to improve the aging process. And a lot of that is health benefits of a ketogenic diet. And you started this back in 2015, is it?
Yes, 2015, May 18th, 2015 was my initiation day.
Exact date and memory, and a story to go with that. But you totally transformed your life, and I'll put the video in the last podcast we did sharing that amazing story, because it's everybody should listen to that, because it's a great understanding of what changing how you eat transformed your life and your health. And I think for me, I love sharing stories but just the benefits, not just losing weight and burning fat, but my other two topics are optimizing your health and improving performance, as I said. But ketogenic diet, how has it helped you and changed your life and your business?
Oh, my life, my business. Well, very short version of it was, I've, trained undergrad and master's degrees in nutrition, but we learned that, there was no way to actually lose weight and keep it off. So you should just learn to love your body the way that it is, as mine kept getting fatter and fatter and unhealthier. Just loved myself the way that I was until it was a car accident in 2014 that had me disabled from a brain injury, bedridden for quite a long time, chronic pain syndrome in my legs. And just after a year and a half of desperation, I ended up finding a ketogenic diet as a way of just trying to heal my brain. Mm-hmm. Turns out that it completely transformed me from the inside out, not only shedding 10 inches off my waist and shedding a metabolic syndrome that I developed and over 60 pounds. All the symptoms of the brain injury are in remission, as well as the pain syndrome in my legs as well. So it was a no-brainer to completely transform my practice as well, because it was like the final piece of the puzzle. I'd always wanted to help people feel really great about themselves, both mentally and physically, and be able to find a way that they could lose weight and keep it off and love themselves all at the same time. So this was the final piece of the puzzle for me, being able to integrate nutrition and psychology and this really powerful healing diet too.
So talk about the business you created, and we'll dive into more specific topics, but ketocarole.com with the E at the end of Carole, and put all the links in the show notes. So ketocarole.com, you created this coaching program, and you've done so much in the last, what year is it? 4 years you've had this? 3? Yeah, 5 years.
Well, 3 years that I've been doing this exclusively as the focus of my nutrition and psychology practice. And so all I do 100% is ketogenic diet, and my flagship program, the initial way that I work with people is a very intensive 9-week program where not only am I showing the quickest, easiest way to get started with keto to get the fastest results, but every step of the way I'm weaving in the psychology of appetite and cravings and long-term behavior change. And so most diets out there, they teach you how to eat and what to eat, most of the time it's not very sustainable, though, because they're not addressing all the psychological side of this too. So that's part of why it's so powerful, is that we get to integrate all of those things so that you're not falling off the wagon due to cravings. You're not eating too much because of the subconscious ways that your body tries to eat too much. And then you're not falling back into old habits when stress or emotions crop up that just make us use food to cope with that. So in a nutshell, that's what it does. There's a lot of details of the structure and things about how that works and all that, but that's primarily, what the program delivers on the outcome.
Go ahead.
Well, I work mostly with people that they've tried keto on their own, and they can't figure out how to get it to work for them. They either maybe lost a little weight and then they plateaued and they can't lose any more, or the people that just never can get going because it doesn't ever seem to work for them. Also, the people that they get going, but then they fall off because of all the psychological stuff where they get stuck. They fall off because of cravings or stress or whatever, and then they just end up gaining the weight back. So those are all kind of the primary people. I mostly work with women as well, too, especially, middle-aged women that have struggled with dieting for decades, and they've tried everything, and they just really want keto to be the final thing that they can stop dieting, really, and just live a life of happiness and loving themselves and stop obsessing with food in their body.
That's huge. And so my first question was, the common challenges that you find that your clients have and what you hear from your podcast listeners and followers, and also your lessons learned as a coach and helping these people.
Yeah, there's so many mistakes I'm finding that people are making. And, part of it is that people will try to read everything out there, and there's so many different conflicting information out there. And it's because somebody figured out what works for them, and then they say, well, this is how you do keto. And somebody else says, no, this is how you do that because that's what worked for them. Yeah. But it turns out that it's customized and individualized for each person. So what, a ketogenic diet is for Susie Joe is going to be different than what it would be for Debbie for lots and lots of different reasons too. So one of the mistakes that people make is that they think that there's just one way to do keto, and they don't understand, right? Another big mistake that people make is they misunderstand about protein. A lot of the information out there says that you have to be really, really careful with protein, and too much protein turns into sugar, and it's going to make you stop losing weight. It turns out that that's not really true, and that protein doesn't turn into sugar. It's more of a demand-based system. So we've got to have adequate protein. And for most people, the amount of protein they eat actually isn't going to too much protein isn't really a thing for them. So another mistake people are making is they don't know how to supplement correctly with salt. Some people need some magnesium and potassium as well. And there's some fine tuning around all of that a lot of people need. Let's see, some other mistakes too. Oh my gosh. One of the biggest ones is that people think they need to consume massive amounts of fat to lose weight or to be on a ketogenic diet. And so they follow the route of really high fat coffee and drinking lots and lots of fat and fat bombs. And I hear people saying oh my gosh, well, I got to get my fat in. I got to find ways of getting more fat in my mouth. And it's those are, some of the common mistakes that I see people making. Another misconception too is that people think that ketosis equals weight loss. So they think, well, if I'm in ketosis, that must mean I'm losing weight. They don't, they can be correlated, but they don't cause each other, right? So you can be on a ketogenic diet and you can gain weight. You can also not be on a ketogenic diet and lose weight. So those things need to be teased apart, and that's part of what I teach people is, well, what is ketosis, and how can we use the benefits of it to help with weight loss? But it isn't the same thing, and you don't need to guzzle, sticks of butter and gallons of fat a day to help you get your goals.
So I think something I learned too from being a nutritional therapy practitioner is digestion of fats. And also I was looking and trying to learn more this next year on genetic testing and your ability to some of the genes that I can't take a lot of saturated fat. And I have got a couple lab genetic testing done over the years, and I didn't really take it serious. And I realized they're both the same marker on two different tests because I was doing, not a ton of coconut oil, but I would have coconut oil and have different fats, but I also have risk for type 2 diabetes. And so you want low carb, high fat, but then you got to mix up your fats. And I think that's something that's an interesting area that I want to learn more about, and how it impacts people's ability to burn ketones. And so they're in ketosis and balance their blood sugar.
Yeah, a lot of the genetic stuff, I wouldn't even see it's the tip of the iceberg yet. It's like the tip of the kernel of the grass is starting to peek out of the I don't even know how to make the analogy right for that, but it's just it's not even like, it's one drop of moisture on the tip of the iceberg is where we're at as far as genetic testing correlated to what diets. We just don't have enough information and research on all of that. I mean, it's a really exciting area, and I think in 50 years we'll be able to, give people a better idea about what diet might be best for them. But the other thing is that because of all the epigenetics, right? So one marker by itself tells us nothing, because we have how many 100,000 other markers that influence that too. Plus epigenetics as well. How has that been expressed before we were born and after we were born? One of the things that's coming to light as well, along the lines of why protein doesn't matter so much like we thought it does, is because in the context of a low carb diet, our body processes things different. So for example, if you're having a high carb diet, protein, you're going to have a lot of sensitivity to the way the body processes protein and what kind of an insulin response you're going to get for it. But if you're eating a low carb diet, there really isn't going to be, for most people, such a thing as too much protein, because in the context of that. So the same thing with vitamins and vitamin mineral requirements too. So we've got the RDA, which was established in the context of a very high diet, a high carb diet. So for example, thiamine is a B vitamin that most of its primary jobs in the body are related to carbohydrate metabolism and digestion. And so in the context of a very low carbohydrate diet, we have no idea what our daily recommendations for thiamine are. So that's where I think we're at with this genetic testing. I think is really exciting. And there are some really skilled practitioners out there. We have one here in a team here in the Seattle area that's really good at it. But there's a lot that we don't know about that, and making very specific dietary recommendations. I think we're far off from that right now. So
I know people's question always is, went into a little bit about, I want to lose weight. So they go to keto, and this is, New Year's is coming up, and people are always, wait till after the holidays, I'm going to start keto because I keep reading it and hearing about it, and so-and-so lost this much weight. But as you said, not everyone loses weight. Some people gain weight. So what we know is everyone's a bio individual. One size doesn't fit all for everybody. So for someone trying to lose weight, what are some ways to get started, or you can help people with?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things is, people often think like, well, everybody's given up around the holidays, but I have just as many new clients coming on now as I've had the rest of the year. And it's just because people are fed up with feeling like garbage, and they don't want to wait 2 more months at this point, until the next year. And who wants to go through the holidays having gained another 10 pounds? Like, wouldn't it be great to not gain anything, or maybe lose 10 pounds in the next 2 months? So I encourage people, if you're tired of feeling like garbage, why not go through the holidays feeling really great? The whole reason that we have the holiday times is to spend time with family and friends. And so let's make the holidays about that, about being with the people, instead of carb binging on sugar and other, traditional carby foods, where we just feel like we need to take a nap in the afternoon and we don't actually get to spend time with each other. So, and so the other thing I like to say too is that instead of, making something the reason not to do it, right? So for example, a lot of people will say like, well, it's too hard to do it in the holidays, or, I can't do it right now because it's the holiday time and all this sugar and carbs are around. what if you take the reason you can't do it as the reason to do it, right? So I can't do it because of the holidays. Well, what if the reason you do it is because of the holidays, because you want to be there and be conscious for your family, and you want to be alert and have energy, and you want to be around for next holiday season for your family and the one after that. So what if instead of saying like, I can't do it because of all the carb stuff I've got to shove in my mouth, what if it's a bigger story of like, the reason I'm doing it is because of the holidays. I'm going to do it now and not wait. So don't wait one more day. Just there's and the truth is that there's always another carby, sugary holiday around the corner, right? Because we make it into January, then what's next? Valentine's Day, and then St. Patrick's Day, and then there's always another sugar excuse around the corner. So. And then we've got our local famous Seattle coffee shop that's always got another sugary beverage in the works for us as well. Another reason why we can't do it too. So,
what about alcohol though? I know most of my clients that's their struggle. They're always trying to start losing weight and change what they're eating and burn fat, burn ketones. But then they like to go out to these dinners and parties and lots of alcohol.
There can be a couple of different things there. If it's too hard to ever give up alcohol, that might be a bigger conversation to have with somebody. Like, if you can't take a 9-week break from drinking alcohol, there might be some other support that you may need in your life, and we can refer you to those people. That's okay.
I say that all the time, and I always feel guilty saying it, but I think it's so true. If you can't stop drinking for 30 days, I'm concerned.
And it's no judgment. If you do need more help than that, that's fine. But that might be a light bulb moment for you if you can't find a 30-day period or 9-week period in your life that you could stop that. You may just have a good conversation with yourself and realize that you might need a little more support around that. But, I look at alcohol as far as a keto diet. So in the beginning, it's going to interfere with your results for several reasons. One is that when you're drinking alcohol, you're more likely to eat stuff that's not following ketogenic diet. You're going to eat more, your inhibitions are down, so you're going to eat more carby garbage. Number two is that alcohol disrupts the regulation of blood sugar in your body. So it will make you hungrier. Even if you're like, no, thank you, you're just going to end up eating more food than you would normal to help try to balance, stabilize your blood sugar. The third thing that's actually specifically related to keto, though, is that in order to make ketones, use fat for fuel, there's an enzyme that's required that's called acid aldehyde dehydrogenase. That's a good quiz question. And it turns out that that's the same enzyme that's required to take the alcohol we drink and turn it into something that doesn't kill us immediately, right? So it's essential for both things. There's only so much to go around, especially in the beginning of a ketogenic diet. And guess what? Your body's going to prioritize not killing yourself from drinking alcohol. So that enzyme gets diverted to keeping your body alive from drinking alcohol. And then there's not enough of it then actually to use, to use the fat for fuel efficiently, right? So it essentially shuts off fat burning. It also shuts off ketone production as well. And that also then compounds into appetite regulation and carb cravings and all of that. So I have people, when I work with them, the first thing I do is this 9-week intensive thing. Let's take a break from alcohol for those 9 weeks. And that's going to get you, fat adapted, keto adapted. It's going to help you get all those results. And plus, the one I didn't mention too is that alcohol is empty calories, right? So in the context of what we're talking about in weight loss, calories do count. And so alcohol is always just going to be extra calories on top of whatever you're having too. So those are all the ways that I look at alcohol. Later on, once you're fat adapted, alcohol can fit on keto as long as you're doing, carb-free, sugar-free stuff. So the good news is that people are fearful of never having alcohol again. We can bring that back in a way that fits with your goals. But being able to take a break from it ends up being really essential to getting the results that people want.
Yeah, great information. So your 9-week intensive program, are you meeting people online once a week? And then how do they keep accountable? Because my next question kind of goes with this is your mindset, because I know everyone struggles with changing what they're eating. And this is not a diet, it's a new lifestyle, new eating commitment to how we're going to balance our blood sugar. So what have you found in your 9-week intensive to make it maximize that benefit for clients? Obviously they're successful based on your testimonials on the website. So talk a little bit about that program, how it helps.
Yeah, it's a very structured program. It's a comprehensive program that I have, and comprehensive and holistic program that I've specifically created and designed to have all the different components that people need to be able to get the results I've been talking about. So, one big pillar of it is a 9-week training course that people go through that walks them through step by step of what's ketosis, how does it affect weight loss, and what do you need to know psychologically to fit into all this too. Because, there's a ton of videos out there that people can watch, but there's nothing that's set up that's like step by step, week by week. Here's what you need to know. Here's a very simple and easy way to implement all of this. And then here's all the tricks you need to know about the way your brain's trying to work against you during this pattern. So, it also includes, simple meal plans and shopping lists and templates and mindset videos and all of that. A full, very robust online training center that people get access to forever. And then my support goes along with that. And, I'm going to describe the way the program is now as of the recording of this, which is November 2018. If you guys are watching this or listening to this 10 years in the future, this may not be the way it is. This is the way it is now. Along with that training program then that I've created is the support from me, live people. I have group conference calls that we do and a video platform, just like what we're doing here. And they're small groups. I only take on a few clients at a time just so they get that really intensive support and hand-holding and cheerleading and accountability along the way. Also, then they get email support from me. If they're Facebook people, we've got a closed Facebook group. They can use Facebook Messenger as well. Then I also have a team of 5 peer support coaches. So these are ladies that have actually been through my program, and they get paired up. So when you come in, you get a mentor buddy that's been there, and then you two decide like if you want to email or text or talk on the phone or whatever to keep each other support and accountability as well. So those are most of the different parts of the way that works. But I'm always looking at like what other layer of support can I give somebody to really help them stay on track to get the results that they want. So.
Good. I love that. That's what I think the psychology part of it is so important as I do coaching with my clients at my studio. And I find it just hard for people to, stick with something for 3 weeks or 30 days, then not to go back to their old ways. And they have I think the biggest challenge is people don't change. They might change their habits, but their whole family doesn't change, and they have kids, and kids can't eat this way. No, you can. It's not a diet. There's so many great meals you can cook that are great for kids of all ages and the spouses. So I don't think it's such a mental thing that people have to switch their mindset to make it realize, okay, this is real good food. It's good for kids can eat this way, and both family members are all family members. So digestion and gut health, and then hormone balance. Do you have anything to throw in? It's kind of an individual topic for a whole episode in itself, but we just talked about that a lot lately.
Yeah, I did actually. I did a talk at the NTA conference in 2017, actually. I spoke specifically on the ketogenic diet for gut health. And it turns out that all the things about a ketogenic diet are the exact recipe of healing of the gut. So we cut out most common allergens, the anti-nutrients that are in the plant foods, most of them. We also provide a high amount of butyric acid and saturated fatty acids from, especially dairy products or cow-based products are going to have a high amount of that butyric acid, which ends up being very healing to the gut. It also is a preferred fuel source for not only the bacteria in our gut, but also the cells that line our gut. They both get that too. So a lot of people don't really understand that like the reason we have that bacteria in there, the reason that they like fiber is because they actually ferment the fiber and then they make fatty acids out of the fiber. That's what they really want. Bacteria doesn't eat the fiber. It isn't eating the fiber for nutrients. It's fermenting it, making fat, and then that's what the bacteria really wants. And also it makes it as a fuel for our cells there in the intestinal lining. And so by reducing the amount of plant matter that we're eating, it doesn't matter because we're still giving our cells and the bacteria in there the fats that they need to survive or that they really want, right? And so it ends up being a wonderful healing recipe, right? So I have a lot of clients that have had, past IBS or SIBO, other ulcerative problems, Crohn's or colitis, autoimmune conditions, food sensitivities as well tend to clear up pretty quickly, the reactions that people have to that, as well as, higher up digestive problems like GERD, heartburn, those kinds of things they all just end up falling away in the background. So, yeah.
And hormone balance, and there's, a lot to go into. Again, it's different, a single episode topic on hormone balance for women doing keto. And I know a lot of our hormones get dysregulated because of stress or, just the HPA axis. But what if kind of things you can touch on in a short condensed version on hormones and ketosis? One
of the key things that people don't really understand is that our hormones, the endocrine glands that secrete our hormones, they operate a lot of the time on biofeedback loops, right? And one of the most powerful suppressants of all of our glands is inflammation. And so when we've got excess inflammation going on in the body, all of our glands are going haywire. So it's one of the reasons I believe that so many women have hypothyroid problems, or the hypothyroid, and all the glands stop working. There was a wonderful, I'll have to search for it and see if I can link it for you, but there was a wonderful interview, Rob Wolf's podcast, with a naturopathic doctor that talked about how adrenal fatigue wasn't really a thing. It actually was biofeedback from inflammation in the body. As soon as you drop the inflammation down, the glands can work fine and properly. And so it doesn't take 6 months or a year of supplementation to heal these things. You actually just have to get rid of the inflammation. And guess what? Keto is one of the most powerful ways of reducing inflammation really quickly, right? So my first 2 weeks on a ketogenic diet, my inflammation marker CRP in my body dropped 62% in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Now, who knows? I mean, that was just the first time we tested it, so it might have been within days. And so the good news is that most of those glands, once you drop that inflammation, they all start working great again. So there's a lot of misconceptions or misunderstandings out there about how keto has to be different for women based on, we need more carbs for our hormones or something like that. That's complete garbage. Hormones are made from, guess what, cholesterol and saturated fat. So we if anything, we need more fat than we need carbs. So that more carbs for women is actually a misconception. So,
all right. So as this show comes out, we're going to be all into the holiday season and New Year's resolutions. And of course, I know a big one this year will be people wanting to start a ketogenic diet. And I know most people that don't listen to podcasts don't really know what ketosis is, what a ketogenic is all about. And as you said earlier, people just think you have to eat a ton of fat. And there's you do a whole program with kind of what I talk about, holistic method, but you do kind of working on the whole person from the inside out. So let's talk about how people can work with you and your program and get some results in 2019.
Yeah. And, not everybody needs a coach or, a really intensive program. So, what I've got is for, a special niche of people that really, they just don't have time to research it and figure it out on their own. They just want, just give me the high-end coach and tell me what to do. Like, you've got those people, I'm sure, that come in for training. They're like, I don't have time to try to figure out my own routines and things like that. Just tell me exactly what to do. I want to spend my time doing everything else that I love in my life. I don't want to be a keto expert, right? That's, one group of people that I'm working with. Also, people have been they put a lot of time and effort into trying to figure it out, and they're just tired of trying to figure out how to make it work for them. So those are kind of the primary, niches of people that, like, somebody who's ready to invest in really intensive program and just get it all sorted out so they can get that figured out. So, so for the people, I actually would recommend that, if you already know that you're not the type of person that's like, yeah, just do it for me, I don't care, tell me exactly what to do. Like, if you're somebody who wants to try to get started on your own and see if you're the type of person that can really figure it out on your own, the place I would recommend to start is, keto, the number one focus of keto is getting your carbs really low. Like, that's going to be your number one focus. And so a place to start is just start tracking the food that you're eating to learn what has carbohydrates in it. A first step, actually before I even started keto, the first thing I did a week of trying to get my carbs under 100 grams a day. Now, for my clients in keto, we're doing 20 grams a day or less, right? So 100 or less a day was a reduced carbohydrate diet for me. And so that's a place I would recommend people starting, is just become really aware of what you're eating, put it in your mouth, and track those carbohydrates and find out how many you're eating per day. You can even do really baby steps, right? Okay, so the next step maybe is cutting out all sugars, soda and sugar foods. Maybe the next step sometimes people take then is like, well, I'm going to cut out all the white foods. So rice and bread and pasta might be the next step, right? Tortillas too. Once you get there, a lot of people are going to have a good results there too. If that's not taking you all the way there, or if you're somebody that has a really hard time, you end up like back and forth, right? So if you can't stick with that, right? It turns out that the opposite of what I was true. So when I was going through school, we were told that restricted diets don't really work because it causes deprivation. Well, it turns out that with human behavior, we actually do much better with rigid rules that we follow. For example, with children, anybody who has children listening to this, kids do better with structure and rules and knowing what to expect, right? If all's okay and everything's okay, and it's a Wild West and they can do whatever they want and jump up and down the house, like kids they just don't do as well. So humans do really well with rules and structure and parameters that are eating, because the truth is if all food fits and you just eat whatever you want, we live in a land of foods that are really tasty and easy to overeat. And the way our body's wired is that we're going to overeat them. So, try those stair-step approaches and become aware of the carbohydrates. If things are really just not working for you, reach out and get some help and support. And if people aren't a good fit to work with me, I've got a referral network that I can send them to whoever's going to be the best fit for them too. So.
And I started to ask earlier, did you say you test people's blood sugar and ketones, like with the Keto Mojo or something, or what do you do for that to know if they're in ketosis?
I do really like the Keto Mojo because it's the most affordable testing product out on the market to test blood ketones and blood sugar. I have mixed feelings about it. For some people, it's a really good tool. It gives them that reassurance that they're getting the carbohydrates low enough that they're getting into ketosis. And if people can actually use that as just one more piece of data that supports their health journey, that can be really great. But also, I work with a lot of women that have followed for years all these external things that tell them whether they should eat or not eat and drink and all this kind of stuff. And so just like they can have a battle with the scale, they might find that blood testing of ketones makes them even more crazy. So, it's kind of an individualized thing, and I help guide somebody to whether that's something that can be really helpful and useful for them, or whether it's also something that would just be like, probably for you, we're going to actually just pay attention to subjective measures. Are you reaching your goals? Are you feeling good? Is your appetite low? Do you have plenty of energy? Are you no longer obsessed with food and craving sugar? Those are all signs that what you're doing is working. So who cares what the number on the meter says?
Yeah, those are good signs to know if you're full. So the next question is, and we got to wrap it up because there's so many questions I keep thinking of. Fasting. It's intermittent fasting. We talk about doing a 12, 16-hour fast, 8-hour eating window, and there's all these different philosophies on that. What's your take for your clients and program?
Yeah, I find the primary focus is getting them into ketosis first, and with that then becomes appetite reduction. And so I always call it like riding the wave of your appetite. So maybe in the beginning you're eating 5 or 6 times a day. Very quickly people can easily transition down to 3 meals a day, and then 2 meals a day is usually next. And just depending on people's goals. Are they progressing towards their goals? Is their appetite reducing? Are they not hungry? It's okay to fast. I think it's kind of silly that there's these arbitrary numbers of you've got to go for 6 hours. You got to have a 6-hour eating window, a 4-hour eating window. I mean, really? I mean, you think, back in the wild, did we have these like timers where like, okay, Hunter, we're going to eat caribou now for 4 hours only, and then we must stop, and we have to go to sleep after that. Or we have to stop eating 4 hours before we go to bed because, because of stuff. I don't know. Like, I think the numbers become arbitrary and just kind of externally silly, right? So I'm really working with most of my clients on getting them maybe for the first time actually in touch with their body and being able to trust and listen to that. Mm-hmm. And so as we get into ketosis, their appetite reduces. For example, I had a client last week that was like, she goes, it's 2:30 in the afternoon and I'm not hungry yet. What do I do? And I said, you don't have to eat. Like, if you're not hungry, your body's got plenty of fuel. It's accessing your own fuel. You're doing fine. Like, there's nothing there you need to stress out about, And I said, probably tomorrow you'll be extra hungry. It's going to be fine. It's all going to balance out. So you don't need to stress and worry about it. So, I'm working with a subset of the population that's, dieted decades and tried everything under the sun, and they've tuned out their body, and they're used to being hungry and tired and miserable and forcing exercise even though they're tired, and not eating when they're starving, right? So I'm bringing that back into balance, right? So part of that is just riding the wave of not being hungry and see how far you can go with that. And that may end up being that you eat 1 meal a day. It might end up being 2. It might be once in a while you do a 24-hour fast or a 36-hour fast. And food just kind of moves to the background of like fueling your body when you need it.
It's funny. I didn't know until recently that 1 meal a day was called something. Like, we've been doing it for a while. Yeah. Like, OMAD, there's a thing now for 1 meal a day, but when you start to be fat adapted and you're just not hungry, and I'd end up, depending on my work day schedule, just have 1 meal a day because I don't have time for meals. But I think that's always funny that there's gets me names for all this. So the last question is, do you allow yourself a cheat meal once you're fat adapted? Example, Mexican restaurant. Last weekend was celebrating my birthday, and I love good fajitas. I don't have the rice or the beans or but rice, beans. What else? It's like tortillas. I don't have any of that, but just the fajita part, and then take the sour cream guacamole is my favorite treat. But then I like chips and salsa. Are you really good? Never cheat, or are you just every now and then? What's your food rule?
Yeah, you're going into my secrets here, so I love it. So I don't look at it as a cheat. I never call it a cheat, right? So I have, I've been doing this 3.5 years, and definitely, if people are playing with carby things very early on in their journey, I would say in the first 6 months, maybe in the first year, it's playing with fire, and they're just going to go back to their old eating habits very soon. I did. Last summer, actually, I was with a friend at a wedding, and I thought like, I'm just going to try a bite of this, the wedding cake that they had. Immediately, I felt like garbage. Like, it just
that's me.
Tanked my energy. I'm going to bed, and normally I'm like this extrovert person. I want to hang out all night with everybody, and I was just like, I'm done. She's like, I'm sorry, am I boring? And I said, nope, that's done. So that was one time I tried sugar. And never again. Like, it's just like, I don't want to feel like that. That is not worth it to me at all. So there's a hard line there, and it's based on the fact that I tried it. I hate the way that I feel. I have found that occasionally I have a higher carb tolerance on occasion. So if I have, and I don't want to get into specifically, what starchy carbs that I'll eat on occasion, because then people are going to go like, well, that's what you do, right? This is what works for me, and I'm not going to say because it doesn't matter, right? It's because I've tried a few things, and I find this makes me feel like garbage. I don't eat that. This makes me feel okay, and if I test my ketones, I'm back into ketosis the next day. And so on occasion, and I've tracked and measured and all this kind of stuff, and on occasion I can have even up to 100 grams of carbohydrates in a day, and then come back the next day and I'm right back in ketosis. So that's the way that that's a sign of metabolic health, actually, is that occasionally, not 7 times a day or every day, occasionally we have a higher carb day, our body burns the carbs and then it goes right back into fat burning. So the way that I know that I'm doing that, and if I've developed this healthy metabolism, is that I don't feel like garbage the next day. I don't have increased cravings and appetite and fighting with myself and feeling bonked energy. I just feel like it's the next day, and I don't obsess about like, oh my God, I can't wait to get more of that, right? But it's, 3.5 years in or 3 years in is where, that came from. And again, like if I have something that makes me feel like I can't stop thinking about that, I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to gain the weight back. I don't want to lose this feeling that I have. And so yeah, and I don't think of it as a cheat meal, because to me, psychologically, a cheat meal is like I'm being really bad. Yeah. And I'm doing something that like a cheat is something that makes you feel like garbage usually, right? Yeah. So I just think of it as like occasionally I'll have those things, and I know like what types of foods will work okay. For example, I found that anything with gluten in it, just feel bloated and gassy the rest of the night. So I don't want to eat that either. Yeah. So, I know. Yeah. So, but again, it's something that the goal is metabolic health, that you can occasionally have these foods that are higher carb. Again, sugar for me is a hard no. But it's not an everyday thing, and it's paying attention to how I feel and what works like that. So.
Well, I think that's a great point, kind of how we can wrap up too, is that once you become fat adapted, because people ask me these questions all the time, you don't have those cravings. And just what you said is exactly what happens to me. Certain foods I feel awful. So it's not like I'm being good. It's just like, I know if I eat that, I'll get a headache in literally 5 seconds, or my stomach will hurt, or, it's more for me, the headache. But you don't have those cravings after a while. So people always say, oh, I can't do that. It's too strict to be ketogenic, and I can't stick with it because of blah, blah, blah. But really, as you're saying, is a perfect example that over time, you don't even crave those foods. And if you do have those foods that aren't good for you, you feel like crap. So you don't even want to go there. So you're more motivated because you'll feel horrible. So
there's freedom in the restriction. And I know nobody understands it until they've been there, but when you get adapted and use the tricks, especially the techniques that I teach about how do you work with the brain chemistry, what's trying to trick you, like there's freedom in that. Like everybody at the end of the time I'm working with them, they all get, that's the one universal thing they get is like, I'm no longer obsessed with food. I feel so free now. Mm-hmm. This burden is lifted from me. Decades I've been trying to get free of this. And so there's freedom in the restriction. It sounds weird to say it, but it's really true.
Good. Well, I love what you're doing, and I heard you speak at the NTA conference 2017, so I've always been following you since I listened to your story and your seminar, and I look forward to learning more from you. And how can our listeners find you and get some help from your programs?
Yeah, you can find me Keto Carole across all social media. Carole has an E on the end, so it's KetoCarole. My website is ketocarole.com, and on there is actually how you can apply to work with me. I do have a free 7-day meal plan that you can download there as well, but also if you want to apply to work with me on a more intensive level, the application is right there on my website.
Good deal. And if people are health coaches themselves and want to learn more, do you still have a program for practitioners or people that want to get more involved in this industry?
I have it on pause right now. I have a wait list actually for that coming out in the future, but nothing at this moment.
Good. And your podcast, people can find on YouTube. Want to share that?
Yeah, YouTube. I have a video podcast series called Keto Chat. So you can actually, if you go to YouTube and search Keto Chat, you'll see, as a recording of this, we have almost 100 episodes of that. So keto success stories, as well as healthcare practitioners and researchers.
Good. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And, you always are filled with information and help clear up some of those myths and, make it easy that it's not a diet. This is something people do for health. And once you get those benefits, you're more motivated to stick with it. And as you said, you lose those cravings and you just don't want to feel that way again. So you don't go back to your old habits. So keep you guys looking at the YouTube channel, the Whole Athlete podcast page on our YouTube channel. Then Carole's, you can learn tons of information. Sign up for her blog because she always sends out that podcast and has great information on her website. And the meal plans, I think, is huge because I'm not a good chef, and I always tell people it's super easy to make low-carb, high-fat meals that keep you full for hours. And people just need some type of idea to get started and get the brain thinking of what is a carb, fat, and protein that's good to keep you in ketogenic levels. So thank you very much, and I hope you guys survive the holidays with these great tips that she shared with us today and start the New Year's off right.
Thanks for having me, Debbie. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.